we would like to thank everyone who took part in our annual Customer Appreciation Week. We'd like to especially thank the hundreds of brand new customers who use WagerTalk.com for the very first time. Our regulars already know we offer $9 Mondays and have a featured handicapper for $2 Tuesdays. We're going one step further. For the final 2 Thursdays in February, every single daily package will be half priced on Thursday, February 18th and Thursday, February 25th using coupon code THANKS50. There is no limit to the number of usages or the number of cappers you can purchase, and the same code THANKS50 will work for both Thursdays. Just another way for us to thank you for your patronage.
All right, we are off and running. Welcome in February the 18th here on this Thursday. Time for another edition of the College Basketball Tip-Off Show. It is powered by WagerTalk.com. Loaded card here tonight in college basketball. We got 4 games we're going to dive into here today, including Wisconsin, Iowa. Going to talk Penn State, Ohio State, Colorado, and Oregon. Look out now. Here comes Oregon. And St. Mary's taking on the behemoth, that being the Gonzaga Bulldogs. We'll break into those, plus we'll have some best bets. And, of course, our friends from the Gold Sheet will drop a play on us. And we're going to do all of this over the next 27 and a half minutes with 3 of the absolute very best here, WagerTalk.com. There he is, Marco D'Angelo, back in the house here on a Thursday. Dave Koken here, and we welcome back Ralph Michaels, my neighbor downstairs. Take a look at these Twitter handles, guys. Always a great follow. Make sure you head over to @Marco in Vegas, @Dave Koken, @CalSportsLV. Always a lot of fun and some information coming your way on those Twitter handles. Let's Thursday, guys, and we got a special promo coming today for you guys. We'll dive into that. But let's talk a little bit here. Marco, since the last time we saw you, how you been, man? What do you got going on now on this Thursday at Wager Talk?
Well, I've got an all-access package up at Wager Talk for the Thursday night action, and it's highlighted by not one but 2 4% plays. And, guys, it's been a real nice run, as you know, in 2021. We're currently number 1, and we'll keep things rolling. We're 46-21. over the last 28 days. So I can't complain, guys.
No, you could. Just none of us here would give a crap. That's all there. Dave Koken in the house. Dave, how you been, my man, last night? How did you do? What do you got going on today?
I won a best bet on the Oilers in the NHL. So the best bets continue to do well. The smaller plays continue to be back and forth would be a generous way of describing it. Just for some reason, I've had a season in college basketball where I continuously have problems in the last minute of games. It happened in both games yesterday that I used. One of them won anyway, and the other one didn't, which was Furman. I used them on here on the show, and up 18 with 2 minutes and change to go, never scored again. Won by 14. So that's the way it goes. But the reads are pretty good. Tonight, I've got a best bet in college basketball. Normally $25, but use the coupon code THANKS50 at checkout, and you get it for half price. I just posted, just before the show, my first college football game for Saturday, an FCS game, and I'm number 1 all time in college football at Wager Talk, looking to keep that going strong with the FCS, and I've got some hockey tonight as well. Looking forward to a good night.
Going to be a good night. Loaded card here today, and you heard him mention it. Thanks50, guys. Thanks50 will get you 50% off. Not only today, February 18th, but next Thursday on the 25th as well. It's half-price packages. That's right. Just use that code Thanks50 at checkout today and next Thursday and get the plays half price. And Ralph, welcome back, my man. What do you got? I know you got something ready for us here today. What do you got going on?
Well, full disclosure, a horrible night for me. 1-3, and I did lose a 5% play. So, unfortunately, in a long college basketball season, that's going to happen. It's been a great week. It's been a great month. What I'm actually going to do, coming off that bad day, Joe, I have 3 plays today at Wager Talk bundled together. Don't buy my package. I'm going to give you all 3 right here. As we talk throughout the show, I will let you know what all 3 best bets are. As 2 of the games are involved, and we'll use the third as my best bet on the end of the show.
All right, good stuff. Then let's dive in quickly to what happened 24 hours ago. Take a look at some of those top performances from around college basketball. And well, Ralph, we've seen his name a bunch of times. Evan Mobley, USC, very successful last night against Arizona State in a big 31-minute, 22-9 and 7, and even 2 steals. Is there anything that kid doesn't do?
Yeah, well, we're going to be watching him, in the association next year. But 29 points and 21 rebounds for Greg Prim sure jumps off the page for me.
Yeah, no, I have Missouri State, Southern Illinois. Some of those covers from last night, 24 hours ago.
Jump in on
go ahead, go.
Because you had Chattanooga up there. I wasn't involved in the game, but if you had Western Carolina,
Oof.
That might be the worst beat of the season. Chattanooga goes on a 12-0 run to force overtime at the end of regulation, and then goes on another 12-0 run to cover the spread in the overtime. Now, if you had Western Carolina, that's just unspeakably bad luck. But it's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, that's college basketball for you right there, encapsulated in one game last night. Those covers from last night, though, some of the big ones that we had, Marquette, from the get-go, just manhandled Butler. Duke says, we're just fine. We're going to be good to go over Wake Forest. Valpo and Loyola, boy, that was a close one, Ralph, to say the least. Loyola getting a little scared, but gets the job done late there against Valpo. Some interesting matchups on that board.
Yeah, I in my head I was thinking fade Loyola and fade Drake. Drake impressed me by covering on the road yesterday off that big Loyola win. So hats off to them. They showed me some moxie.
Yep, and of course some of the overs and unders from last night that really stuck out. Some of the big overs and unders from last night. Evansville, Indiana State, way over. You mentioned, of course, the overtime at Western Carolina, Chattanooga, and Dave looked like Tennessee got right again for the first time. It's fun to watch them put it all together. That offense has been a little suspect, but they put it all together last night against South Carolina.
Well, that's the thing with Tennessee is that when they're right, they can play with anybody. They can get out there with Baylor, Gonzaga, Michigan. They can play with anybody. The problem is their offense is sporadic at best, and you can't win with just defense. And there are just too many games. Now, last night wasn't one of them, but South Carolina doesn't play much defense. Last night was a game where they clicked on offense, but there's just too many games that Tennessee vanishes on offense and can't create anything. That will get them beat at some point in the NCAA tournament. I think they're probably a Sweet 16 team at best. I don't think their offense will be good enough to carry them beyond that.
They looked good last night for sure. All right, guys, once again, the reminder, thanks 50. THANKS 50. That's right. Use that code at checkout today and next Thursday. Half price packages ready to go. Let's dive into Iowa, Wisconsin here tonight. Interesting enough in this matchup here, it opened up as a 1.5-point Iowa line, and now it is swapped. We're looking at -2 in a lot of places here, Marco. The total hovering right around that 145 mark. It's a big matchup any which way you cut it here. Do you agree with the flip now? Do you think that the right team is favored in Wisconsin?
Well, I can understand the money going to Wisconsin because prior to that 2-game winning streak for Iowa, they had lost 4 out of 5, so they kind of fell out of favor with the betting public. But I'm going to go to an old angle, and when Dave and I used to do the radio show all the time, Dave used to use the phrase, you can lose the same game twice. And I'm going to play that card here today with Wisconsin. That was a big game on Sunday. It was a nationally televised game. They had Michigan coming into their house. Everything was setting up perfect for Wisconsin because Michigan was coming off that long layoff. They had the cancellations because of COVID. And Wisconsin was, winning soundly at halftime and couldn't carry it in the second half. And I just think that loss is going to give them that little bit of a hangover effect this game against Iowa. And Iowa did get the ship righted. They won 2 in a row. Granted, the second one, although it was a 30-point victory, was against a very down Michigan State team this year, but it's still a good performance, and I think they build on it. And throw a little stat at you. This is a college basketball stat, guys. Play on road teams where the line is +3 to -3 off a blowout win of 20 points or more. If both teams tonight have a win percentage of 60% or better, blindly playing that angle in college basketball, about 158-92 against the spread. I'll go ahead and take Iowa tonight and grab the added value with the line cross.
Terrible game last time, Dave, for Luka Garza. There was just not good. But does Wisconsin have enough firepower to compete with this offensively, this Iowa team, you think?
Well, Wisconsin doesn't have much firepower at all, but they play defense. I'll be honest, I did not check the status of Frederick for Iowa, who'd been hurt, came back and played, and then went back on the sidelines again. And he's an integral part of this Iowa team. He's not the guy who gets the headlines, but he's a key component, particularly on the defensive end.
He's listed as out,
Iowa.
Dave.
And
he's out.
He's not. Is he listed as out?
He's listed as out, yes.
Okay. Well, I think they're not the same team without him, even though he's, again, not the key player on the team. Wisconsin, this is a big game for them. I'll disagree a little bit with Marco. I think this is a get-right game for Wisconsin. They need this one, not from a standpoint of making the tournament or anything like that, but that was a bad last 5 minutes against Michigan on Sunday. And I think Gard needs to get his team out there performing well. They don't lose 2 in a row very often, and I don't think they will here. The line has moved to the point where I don't think it's worth playing, because I do think this is going to be a close game, but I would still side with Wisconsin.
You know, the line moved, Ralph, but the total has not. How are you going to approach this game here tonight?
Well, I look at Iowa, and there's nothing for me to be impressed about Iowa. Marco had mentioned prior to their 2 wins, they lost 4 out of 5 games. So in those 7 games, they're 0-4 straight up against good teams, and they beat Michigan State twice. They did beat Rutgers by 13, covering a 6.5-point spread. But nothing impresses me out of that. And you look at the scoring. I mean, they scored 65 against Indiana. They scored 69 against Indiana the previous game. No team slower in basketball than Wisconsin. And Wisconsin may not have the shutdown D, but they do play that slow tempo. I have a lean with the under here. And I just think that, Dave, you had a great stat on Wager Talk today. Wisconsin now, 12-1 ATS off a straight-up loss?
No, it's just straight up.
Okay.
That's just straight up, because the number's so short here that I don't factor that. I have a tendency when I do trends like that, I want to know what the team's doing straight up. The spread can be pretty random. So I prefer to look at actual outright results in situations like this.
Yeah, one more thing I'll mention, like when I'm looking at teams like this, I like to look at how many times teams lost as a favorite and how many times teams won as a dog, to do the same thing Dave's talking about, that straight up game. In this game, I'm not impressed with Iowa. I didn't get to the window with either side, and I do have a small lean with the under here as the pace is just too slow to get to this number.
All right, then let's keep it in the Big Ten here. Another big matchup, Ohio State, 6-game winning streak, taking on Penn State here tonight in this one. Ohio State opens up as a 5.5 point favorite in this one. Total 2 at 146, and I'm seeing 4.5s now. Total also holding strong at 146. Dave, we've talked about Ohio State. Is there any hotter team in the country right now here? And do you like the line? Is there any value in it for you?
I mean, they're playing great ball. They're just an extraordinarily sound team fundamentally. Holtman's doing an awesome job with this team. And, if there's an outsider that could crash the Final Four, and they're not an outsider by much, but Ohio State has the look of one of those teams that could be playing on the final weekend of the college basketball season. They're not the most physically dominant team you're ever going to see. They're not particularly big. And on paper, you say, okay, they're pretty good. Washington's a nice player. Liddell is a good player. But, boy, they just They just come together as a unit about as well as anybody. Nevertheless, this is a difficult spot for them. They're coming off some big games. I mean, just a series of really big games. And what's up next? Michigan. That is an enormous game on Sunday. So this is a sandwich spot. And I think they're going to get a game from Penn State here. I would lean to the Nittany Lions in this contest just based on the scheduling dynamics. Road favorite. They've already won this. I mean, it's semi-important to Ohio State, in terms of seeding, but that's more for the fans and the media than anything else. If Ohio State were to lose this game, what does it really mean? Okay, they're a 2 seed, maybe the worst. They drop down to the 3 level. It just means nothing. So I think the situation favors Penn State. I don't trust them enough to bet them because the Buckeyes are playing such great basketball. But from an analysis standpoint, I'd look at Penn State here.
Ralph, the first game between these two teams, I believe the 27th, Ohio State, it wasn't a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. Is there anything that you can take from that into this game?
Well, this is one of my 3 plays today. As I said, don't buy my package today at Wager Talk. You're going to hear all 3 plays. And I did play Ohio State. When someone asked me, compare this Ohio State team to someone. And I said, this is the same Butler team that we saw in 2016 that lost to Virginia, 2017 that lost to North Carolina with Chris Holtmann as their head coach. He brought that same dynamic. 5 guys that can take care of the ball. Nobody turns the ball over. One of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. So they hold leads late. If they have the lead against Penn State, Penn State starts fouling, they're not going to make room on them. And really, my motivation for this game is Penn State. They're off 2 brutal losses. 2 games ago, they were sitting at 7-8. A 7-8 record, thinking, okay, we play Michigan State, then we have Nebraska. We can win those 2. We can get over 500. We can start talking about being in the NCAA tournament. What happens? A 2-point loss to Michigan State on the road, then a brutal 1-point loss to Nebraska. Boom, your bubble is burst. Jim Ferry's talking about, we have to keep our confidence. We have a big team coming in. We can't let those losses affect us. I think their bubble burst. I think they're done. I like Ohio State.
Marco, I got to ask you, man, is the deli open here? Because there's going to be a sandwich talk somewhere around here, my friend. What is it here with this team? Michigan on deck for Ohio State.
Yeah, Joe, you know me well, and normally this would be the ultimate sandwich spot, as Dave alluded to, but I'm going to point something out. I have an angle that I like that's going to supersede it, and that's the first meeting. The fact that Ohio State only won by 4 at home, they're not going to look past Penn State. And I realize Penn State's coming off an ugly loss, and generally, you lose to probably the worst team in the conference, Nebraska. You should bring your A game in your next game. But I go back to that first meeting, and yeah, I understand why Ohio State only won by 4 points. Look who they played the game before. They went in 4 days earlier, went to Wisconsin, and won as an underdog at Wisconsin. And since then, it's been nothing but, wins for Ohio State. As you said, they are the hottest team in the country. 6 wins in a row, 9 of the last 10. They're fundamentally sound. And the problem that looking at Wisconsin, looking at Penn State, those last 3 games that they've struggled offensively, they've had 4 straight games now where they have not shot better than 38%. And they haven't topped 61 points in any of those games. They're going against a very good defensive team in Ohio State. I don't see how they get the job done in those 3 games where Maryland, Michigan State, and Nebraska, not exactly the top teams in the Big Ten this year for sure. I'm on Ohio State. If it wouldn't been for that close meeting the first time around, yes, I would agree with the setup on Penn State. But I'm going to have this one superseded. I've got Ohio State winning this one by 7 or more.
Yeah, and that first game, free throws seemed to be the difference in that one, too, as Penn State barely hit just over 70%. Ohio State, 95% in that game. So It's going to be an interesting game here tonight. Both games in the Big Ten. We're going to take a look in the Pac-12 here because this Oregon team is getting ready to come onto the scene here. Maybe finally firing on all cylinders. They're going to be taking on a Colorado squad. Now this opened up as Oregon a 1.5-point favorite. It has increased as the money comes rolling in. I'm seeing some threes, 2.5s, and threes out there. 140 holding strong, 140.5. So. Ralph, is it all about timing? Is this Oregon team finally putting it together at the right time?
Yeah, and they usually do down the stretch. But to me, it's the home road dichotomy in Colorado. Colorado's only been a dog a couple times, a handful of times. They're 1-2. And when I look at their home and away shooting, it's night and day, 50% at home and only 44% on the road. This Oregon team had a lapse in defense at the start of the conference play where they lost a couple games, but they're sitting at 12-4, and you got a chance with Dana Altman to you're only a half a loss behind USC for the title. Now, granted, they're only 7-3 because of the amount of games, but if I have a team that's hot against a team that doesn't shoot well on the road and the better coach, no question, I'm on the Oregon side.
Going Oregon in this one. How about it, Marco? An edge here to Oregon at home at the right time?
Yeah, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon just yet with Oregon. Yeah, they've got a nice 3-game winning streak, but let's be realistic. They beat Washington, who has been bad this year. They beat an Arizona State team that if you can figure the Arizona State team out, please send me a memo because I can't. They've been all over the place. Good performance one game and then a total disaster in the next. And then Arizona, we've talked about them all year. Yeah, on paper, that looks good. But Arizona, we've questioned their motivation all year long. So before I jump on the bandwagon, I got to see them beat a good team. Colorado's been consistent all year. They've been a decent team. Yeah, Ralph pointed out their woes on the road, but I'm looking at their last 5 road games. 3 of them were against 3 of the better teams in the Pac-12. You play at USC, at UCLA, at Utah, and all 3 of those teams can play defense. That's going to skew their numbers. Until Oregon proves that they are legit, I can't lay the extra wood with them that we're seeing tonight. I think the value's on Colorado. I'm going to take them plus the points here. I think this one goes right down, last possession type game. Give me the points and Colorado.
Colorado split here. Dave, is this Oregon team a train you want to get in front of? And do you ever look at revenge as a situation here?
I sometimes look at it, but I didn't really look at it here. Look, Colorado is super talented. They're a really good team. And in a way, they've underachieved. I think on paper, they're borderline top 10. But they've lost 6 games. They're only 10-5 in conference. I mean, they're going to make the tournament. But this, to me, is a team that should be battling USC for the top spot in the conference, and instead they're not. They're 3 games in back of USC, so they're not going to catch them. And that's the problem I have with Colorado. Is they just, I think for one thing, and I said this morning on Wager Talk today. Look, Tad Boyle knows more about basketball than I do. When I look at this Colorado team, I see a team that probably should be pushing the pace more than they do. I think they out-athlete almost every team they go up against. And if you get the better athletes, push it. Make them beat you. Make them try and slow you down. Instead, he does the other team's favors by slowing them down. I think Altman's going to find a way to outcoach Boyle in this game, and Oregon will slip out with a win. Definitely not a play for me. This is an easy pass, but I would lean Ducks even at the price.
Leaning Ducks there. All right, guys, we got one more game here we're going to talk about with the Zags, but first I do want to remind you, today is Thursday, and this Thursday, along with next Thursday, your opportunity to get half-price packages right now. You can go to Dave's page, you can go to Marco's page, you can go to Ralph's page at WagerTalk.com. Just use the code THANKS50 at checkout, and get all their packages right now 50% off. You can do it today and you can do it next Thursday. Take advantage of it. Locked and loaded on this card here tonight are Marco, Dave, and Ralph. Great opportunity. Remember that Thanks50 is the code to use at checkout. All right, let's check out this final game here before we get to some of our best bets. And I don't know what else there is to say about the Zags. Opens up as a 21-point favorite here, total at 142.5. Taking on St. Mary's. And Marco, we saw this game, I believe, the first time around, 73-59 is what it was on January the 16th. Anything change in your mind to think there's going to be anything different here?
Well, there's nothing to say there's going to be anything different here. This Gonzaga team is an absolute machine. But the point spread is the great equalizer. You've got a team that's 20-0 straight up, the number one team in the country in points scored, number one team in the country shooting percentage. And you would think that would equate to a winning record at the windows because that's where it counts. They're 9-9 against the spread. Vegas has done a good job of, equalizing their dominance. And again, you're looking at an inflated number tonight. Now, here's the problem for St. Mary's. They're coming off a long layoff. They played over the weekend. They played Pepperdine on the 13th. But prior to that, they hadn't played since the 23rd of January. Now, they showed signs of rust in that game against Pepperdine. They only shot 37% from the field in that game. If you come in here and only shoot 37% against Gonzaga, the way they score, you're going to get run out of the building. Now, I would expect a better effort out of St. Mary's the second game back, but still, this is all about motivation with Gonzaga. If they keep the foot on the gas, they can cover this game, but I'm not going to lay 20 with them. Maybe a little look in the first half to Gonzaga, but again, you're still paying the premium for them because you're going to lay more in the first half than you would in comparison to the full game. So for me, I'm not getting involved in this. It's Gonzaga or pass, and I'm going to pass it.
Dave, I mean, how big a game is this for the Zags? Are you concerned at all for motivation between these two teams?
No. But it's St. Mary's Super Bowl.
Right.
They're not going to be in the NCAA tournament this year, so this is the game, St. Mary's. They're not going to win, but I think they'll compete. And there's a couple of things that point me to St. Mary's. One is Gonzaga's not covering spreads. I think they've only covered 3 of their last 10. So, I mean, you're paying a huge premium if you want to bet Gonzaga. The second thing is St. Mary's, if nothing else, this is not one of Bennett's best teams, but they still play St. Mary's style basketball, which is low number of possessions. They milk the clock. They'll shoot with a couple of seconds left in the shot clock, and they'll lull you to death. This is the first game. I mean, they actually were up 10 in the first half in that game and eventually got run out, but only by 14. They've only had one game that was a complete disaster this year. I forget who that was against. Oh, San Diego State just killed them. No, I think the number's too high. I think Gonzaga wins 12 to 15 points, comfortable win, but 20.5. I went ahead and took it. This is I posted a free play today, and this is it on St. Mary's plus the points.
Ralph, I mean, it's obviously overinflated here. Total-wise, though, have you looked at that? How do you approach this game?
Well, this is one of my plays as well. This is play number 2, and I used the Zags in the first half minus the 11.5. Listen, since they've been trailing at Pacific 3 games ago, they jumped out against BYU. They had a lead against them. They jumped out against San Francisco. We have St. Mary's that's only played 1 game in a month. And, the difference about the Zags this year is, you have an NBA player playing point guard who's pressing that pace. And, they will press that pace. I have no interest in the Zags for the full game because we've seen them. You have a 20-plus point lead in the second half. It's hard to play with that same intensity. But this St. Mary's team, Gonzaga's lost 3 games in 3 years in conference play, 2 of those losses to St. Mary's. So they will be focused for this. They only have 2 games left on the season. This is their second final home game. And I expect the Zags to come out quick. And I did lay the 11.5 with Gonzaga for the first half.
Don't see a lot of Gonzaga games in the 140 area for a total either, too. So it's very interesting there. All right, guys, it's time for our best bets, including our friends at the Gold Sheet. Let's take a look at what they've got going on today. Jacksonville State looking at Belmont, and they are looking at the over in this one, Ralph. Belmont's going to put on some points. They're going to shoot a few threes in this game here. Over seems to be the play.
Well, the Gold Sheet play of the day is the over in Belmont. I mean, they've dominated the Ohio Valley, and, you can say Belmont is sort of the mid-majors Gonzaga in that area for the OVC. So they're number 32 as far as offensive tempo goes for Belmont. The Gold Sheet likes Jacksonville State and Belmont over the total.
Going over. All right. Make sure you guys are visiting our friends at the Gold Sheet. So, Marco, we'll turn to you, my friend. What game you got circled for us here today?
Well, I'm going to go with Utah. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
We are going to take a look at Rutgers at Michigan. And you know what? You talked about in an earlier game today is the Deli open. Yeah, the Deli's open. You just had the wrong game, Joe. The Deli's open right here, Rutgers at Michigan. And guys, let's set the table for this one and why it is such a sandwich spot. Michigan had that long layoff. They came back and played on Sunday, played that monumental game against Wisconsin. Wisconsin, obviously one of the top teams in the Big Ten. That was going to be a major test. It was on TV. All of the sharps were saying the same thing. As good as Michigan is, having not played since January 22nd, they were going to be flat. Wisconsin, with their defense, was going to be able to handle them. Well, they did for a half. And in the second half, Michigan got it rolling. And I got to feel that was just a very satisfying win for Michigan that knew they were in a bad spot on Sunday and overcame it. So why am I not going to ride the wave with them? Well, we're talking about the sandwich. And look at who is on deck. You're coming off Wisconsin, and now you're returning home to play Rutgers. Although Rutgers is playing good right now, that's not a powerhouse name in the Big Ten to get the juices flowing for Michigan, but they do have Ohio State on deck, who is the hottest team in the country. I think Michigan gets caught looking ahead. I think they spent a little bit too much energy off of the long layoff. Sometimes we have a phrase in horse racing, if you go too fast in that first start back off of the layoff, you're going to bounce in the next one. And I think Michigan bounces here. I like Rutgers to cover this one and take it right down to the wire and throw out a little stat on Rutgers. The last two seasons following a game in which they covered the spread, well, they cover the spread again in the next one, 17-8 against the spread the last two seasons. I'm on Rutgers as the best bet.
Taking the points. All right, good stuff there. And Dave, just to confirm, you're going to go with St. Mary's as the best bet tonight, taking almost 3 touchdowns?
Yes. Hopefully the extra point doesn't come into play.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, Dave's on St. Mary's. And Ralph, which direction are you heading?
My third play, which you're getting here, is Arizona, game 765. Dave brought up several times Arizona, again, self-imposed ban, no Pac-12 tournament, no NCAA tournament. So you have to pick your, and they're revenging a home loss to UCLA. They've lost 4 straight to the Bruins. So we're talking a several-year pattern here where they are motivated. And on the UCLA side, you look at their last 8 opponents. They've played Washington teams 4 times and Cal, the bottom 3 teams, out of their last 8 games. Yet they're still only shooting under 40% in that stretch. The offense has disappeared. I don't think they could keep up with UCLA scoring. With Arizona scoring, yes, UCLA is a powerful defensive team under Cronin now, but I think it's all circled on Arizona. You start reading some of those LA papers, and UCLA, we're only a half a game behind USC for the conference title. Well, until you're a proven winner and you're in that spot and you're starting to think about the conference titles, that's the perfect spot to play against you. I'm on Arizona as my third play here on the show.
All right, love it. And in honor of Marco, I did pick the Utah game, only I'm going to Oregon State getting 2.5 points here. They lost their best shooter. This is a bad spot for Utah. This is their third road game. Oregon State has done really well conference play at home. Take the points here, 2.5. Oregon State hosting Utah. Those best bet recaps. Here we go here, guys. We're looking at Ralph going Ohio State laying the 4.5, Arizona getting the 2, and the Zags in the first half laying the 11.5. Dave loves St. Mary's full game here. Give him the 20.5 points. Marco, that deli is open, folks. Rutgers getting 9 points against Michigan. I'm going to lay it with, I'm going to take it rather, those 2.5 points. Oregon State at home taking on Utah. And our friends at the Gold Sheet, Jacksonville State, Belmont go over 150. You guys head over to WagerTalk.com right now. Take advantage of this deal. It is half price, guys. All you got to do is use the code THANKS50 at checkout. Get all their packages here today at WagerTalk. Ralph's, Dave's, this Thursday and next Thursday, and Marco's, 18th, 25th. Thanks 50 will get you 50% off their packages right now. Head over to WagerTalk.com. Take advantage of it. Let's make it a profitable night here across the board in the sports landscape. And don't forget, hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner. Hit subscribe, and make sure you come back and join us again tomorrow. We'll break it all down, get you ready for the weekend in college basketball. On behalf of Marco, Dave Koken, Ralph Michaels, guys, best of luck with your plays. We'll come back, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Good luck.